Yes, hello to you all once again, and another warm welcome back to Classic Dirt Bike TV with another quick posting this time of a bike that I came across during my travels this year, and this feature bike here is Alastair Browns 1983 250 Swedish Husqvarna. Now, this bike that you see here began its life as just an old 250 WR Husqvarna wreck that was lying around the workshops of Husqvarna specialists Andy Elliott's HVA Husqvarna empire in the UK. And it just so happens that our current bike's owner, Alastair Brown, just happened to be in the market for a project bike that he could buy and then possibly refurbish for racing. And so when he found out that Andy Elliott was looking to move his dusty old enduro bike along the road, it wasn't too long before the asking price was met by Alastair, and then he had the bike project that he was looking for. And although this bike was more or less intact, it would certainly need a full restoration before putting it back onto the track. And so, naturally, Alastair just stripped everything completely off the bike and then began by inspecting the frame for any signs of damage or misalignment before then having it professionally blasted clean and then repainted in this Husqvarna white, along with the rear swing arm and, of course, those bottom fork stanchions as well. Now, again, as you'd expect, this 250 reed valve Husqvarna engine also underwent a full rebuild, and it was treated to new big end bearings and seals, and a brand new liner was also fitted into the cylinder, which was then honed out, and a brand new piston and rings added as well. Although surprisingly for a 250 Husky engine that hadn't been used for quite some time, it was actually in very good condition considering its age. But while Alastair had the motor in pieces on the bench, he also took the opportunity to remove some rough casting marks from the ports of the barrel just to improve the gas flow around the engine. Now, on the transmission side, the gearbox was all good with no apparent wear of any of its parts, and the clutch was also given an upgrade by fitting extra plates to the basket and adding stronger clutch springs as well. But a lot of the fasteners, like bolts and nuts on this engine, were either replated or changed for titanium replacements just to make sure that the fasteners did their job and were up to spec. Now, the recently rebuilt Husqvarna motor was also treated to a brand new V-Force 3 reed valve block, and a brand new Mikuni carburetor also got the job of supplying the fuel and air mixture into that Husky's 250 cylinder. And to supply all of the sparks for this 250 two-stroke motor, it was an electronic CDI ignition unit from Electric's world that was used on this ignition side of the 250 engine. Now, once more, Alastair's bike, of course, doesn't have the original Husky expansion chamber on it anymore, as this is another pattern replacement that's been supplied through Andy Elliott at HVA factory. And this part here is yet another straightforward bolt-on substitute for that original Husqvarna 250 pipe. But with regards this alloy tailpipe here at the back, I'm not entirely sure if this is the original part or possibly a replacement item, but it certainly still looks period correct for the bike. Now, as you'd expect, when the rest of the bike was being refurbished, the front forks also got the same attention, and these bottom parts of the forks were all repainted when the frame and the swing arm were done, but the remainder of the forks got treated to brand new heavy duty fork springs and brand new seals, and of course slightly heavier than standard weight of oil, just to firm things up here at the front end. Now at the top end of the forks, a brand new pair of titanium end caps were fitted to the top of each fork leg. But moving on to the back end of Alastair's 250, you can see he's certainly spared no expense when it comes to rear shocks on his bike. So he's bolted on this lovely pair of high quality Öhlins piggyback units, which of course are identical to the old ITC shocks that Husqvarna used to fit to these Twinshockers back in the day, which were still all basically Öhlins units, just under a different name. And of course these old ITCs wouldn't be painted in this colour, but would have been painted in blue instead. Now the bike's fuel tank also underwent some slight refurbishment, and it was also later fitted with a set of Husky graphics and a brand new petrol tap and filler cap on the top as well. And Alastair later did manage to get the legendary Flying Finn himself, Heikki Mikkola, to actually sign this tank when he met up with him sometime later when he attended the big Drumlandrig Castle event in Thornhill in 2017. Now, I expect that the eagle-eyed among you will have already noticed that these plastic Husky side panels aren't the stock 1983 items, but these panels have been taken from the later 1984 bike. But Alastair wasn't too worried about that slight inaccuracy, because after all, he built this bike to race it on the track and not to use it as a showpiece. And actually, you may also have noticed that some of the racing backgrounds on these panels are coloured green, while others are in yellow backgrounds. It's just that these clips were taken months apart from each other, but nevertheless, it's still exactly the same machine. But again, the front wheel spindle had to have a spacer inserted because the original speedo drive that was used on this WR Enduro version was no longer required, and the bike's original alloy wheels have been substituted for these yes, you guessed it, black SM Pro Platinum rims. And as soon as I can meet up with Alastair again, I'll certainly have a quick word about exactly what he was thinking about by putting black wheels on such a nice classic Twinshocker. Although besides fitting those hideous black wheels, Alastair's still made a fantastic job of putting this old Husky back to good use once again. A bike, as I said, that Andy Elliott had languishing around in the corner of his workshop, just gathering dust. And although this bike was an original WR Enduro machine, Alastair's kind of reinstated it to be used as a full-blown scrambles bike, and he's bolted on lots of brand new parts, including this rear drive sprocket and chain that were supplied by Talon. Now, as I said before, I'm not exactly sure as to what this bike's condition was like before Alastair bought it from HVA Factory, and I suspect that it would still have been in quite fair condition coming from Andy Elliott, but Alastair's certainly done the right thing by doing a full refurbishment on this bike, and I'm not going to call it a restoration because the bike's absolutely bristling with a lot of new and upgraded parts, and it's certainly changed its identity from its 1983 WR configuration as well. But with all of that besides, it's still a cracker of a bike. But when you stop to think about it, I suppose that this would still make quite a nice enough looking machine to use at classic shows and vintage concourse motorcycle events. But as I said, that was never Alastair's intention, because first and foremost, he put this bike together to be used as a classic weekend racer. And in these couple of pictures here, you can see Alastair lining the bike up against some of the other classic riders as he waits to take to the track. But as I said, although this bike looks like it could still be a show winner, it still gets very well used, as you can gather. And Alastair's certainly had some decent results on this bike since he finished its refurbishment, which was certainly a few years ago now. Although, just to finish off our quick look around Alastair Browns 1983 250 Husqvarna, let's just get him to fire the bike up, and let's have a little listen to what that husky motor sounds like. And so there you have it. That's our penultimate bike here on Classic Dirt Bike TV for 2023, which leaves us with only one more video to post this year. And in that video, we'll be checking out this 1971 CZ 380, which has a host of upgraded and brand new parts bolted onto it. So don't miss our very last posting of 2023. So from me, for the time being, everybody have a great Christmas, and I'll certainly speak to you again when we all return to Classic Dirt Bike TV.